Disrespecting women, deriding minorities. Let's play hardball. Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews in Washington. Let me start tonight with this. Women of America, beware. There's a crowd out there that doesn't believe in you. You go through the terror of rape, for example, and they question your word. They say you better have that baby or you're going to jail. Check the Republican platform that came out of Tampa. 14th Amendment rights to the fertilized human egg. What about the woman's rights, you might ask? Personhood for the unborn from conception. What about the woman's right to control her personhood? And the attacks continue. Now a close Romney ally in Indiana has put out word he would criminalize abortion even if the woman was raped. For more than a year, we've heard this stuff, and it's headed right for the White House. People scoffed when Rick Santorum pushed to stop contraception. Now the Republicans are all pushing a measure to let bosses deny coverage for birth control simply by saying they don't believe in it. Bosses get to decide. All this from a party that wants to dismember Medicare, erase health care, kill the federal effort for better education. Romney's right. It's not about Big Bird. It's about the bird brain notions you and the hard right are running this campaign on. Joining me now is U.S. Congressman Gwen Moore, and from Wisconsin, and the Huffington Post great Howard Fineman. At last night's debate, Indiana's Senate candidate Richard Murdoch, this is last night, answered a question submitted by a voter about his position on abortion. Let's listen.
You know, this is that issue that every candidate for federal or even state office faces, and I, too, certainly stand for life. I know there are some who disagree, and I respect their point of view, but I believe that life begins at conception. The only exception I have to have an abortion is in that case of the life of the mother. I struggled with it myself for a long time, but I came to realize life is that gift from God, and I think even when life begins in that horrible situation of rape, that it is something that God intended to happen.
And there he is saying, under the law, a woman should be denied the right to choose an abortion. She would be criminalized under his law. Shortly after the debate ended and Murdoch's comments had gone viral, Romney spokeswoman Andrea Saul, who often does the cleanup, distanced the candidate from Murdoch, her candidate, with this statement, quote, Governor Romney disagrees with Richard Murdoch's comments and they do not reflect his views. But it may have been a little late to back away from Murdoch, given that Romney's ads supporting him, one of only two Senate candidates Romney has come out for, had gone up the day before. Let's watch him.
This fall, I'm supporting Richard Murdoch for Senate. As state treasurer, Richard worked with Governor Daniels to balance the budget and make government more accountable. As senator, Richard will be the 51st vote to repeal and replace government-run health care. Richard will help stop the liberal Reid-Pelosi agenda. With so much at stake, I hope you'll join me in supporting Richard Murdoch for U.S. Senate.
Well, there you go. We've got the candidate pushing himself away from Murdoch's statement. Murdoch, of course, is the Republican nominee in the state of Indiana for the United States Senate. Let's take a look now. We've got a couple of guests here. U.S. Congresswoman Gwen Moore is from Wisconsin. She recounted her own ideal in this sort of situation, horrible situation. We also got MSNBC star Howard Fineman. Congresswoman Moore, I want to talk to you about just your own feelings and attitudes and experiences that might put a light on this thing. Here's a candidate for the United States Senate in Indiana saying basically if a woman is raped and has a pregnancy as a result of it, she should be forced by law to have that child. By law. And if you read the Republican platform, it basically says criminalize abortion in any case. Go ahead. Your thoughts.
Well, all I can tell you is a survivor of rape, legitimate rape, whatever kind of rape you want to call it. I just caution the women of America to not allow Mitt Romney and these senators to take over our government. They will totally eviscerate the rights of women to control their own destiny. I can tell you rape is not rare. And, you know, I differ with Michael Steele and others who say that they have just been inarticulate. They are really articulating the views of people of members of Congress and the president who believe that there should be no exceptions to abortion. Their belief is that rape is just yet another form of conception. They believe that rape is sort of an excuse or a loophole that women use in order to get an abortion. And I can tell you that 95% of all rape victims are women. 25% of all women in their lifetime will experience rape. That means your niece, your daughter, your granddaughter. And if we start forcing women to have babies when they have been raped, it will cause such social chaos. And these men who would seek to be in charge of our White House, our Supreme Court, and our United States Senate are a danger to the health of women. Rape causes post-traumatic stress disorder, suicidal attempts, visceral reactions. I can tell you that as a rape survivor, every time one of these buffoons opens their mouths, Chris, I really recoil, physically recoil, with how disgusting this is, and it brings up terrible memories.
Thank you. Stay with us. Howard, let's talk ideology here. This is an ideology. You're hearing it from Murdoch. You heard it from Todd Aiken, yes, where he said a woman couldn't get pregnant because if she's actually raped against her will. Crazy talk like that, because they cannot accept the impurity of any policy. It has to be down the line, which is the definition of a fanatic. We must punish anybody who has an abortion, help somebody have an abortion, anybody has anything to do with it. And yet they don't recognize that in life, not everything's your choice.
Right. Well, that's why they wanted the personhood amendment. They wanted the language about personhood and the personhood amendment in the platform. That was crucial to them. Mitt Romney says now, in one of his many torturers, different positions on abortion, that he is impure in the sense that he will accept abortions in the case of rape, incest, and the life of the mother.
But he's running on this platform.
But he's running on the platform. That's number one. Number two, the Democrats, I think, have rightly jumped all over this. I talked to people in both the Romney campaign and the Obama campaign. The Romney campaign says, hey, our candidate distanced himself from Richard Murdoch. What the Democrats are saying is, first of all, the ads are still up, as you point out.
Yeah, he's still endorsing that guy.
Yes. Secondly, the key in several states, Chris, are independent women voters, and they say in surveys that abortion is their number one issue. So this is going to play right at those people in Colorado, New Hampshire, Virginia, and so forth.
They're in bed with the far right on this.
And if Mitt Romney is saying that he's a bipartisan, that he wants bipartisanship, and if he's saying that he's a moderate, which he said in all those debates, being in league with Richard Murdoch doesn't strengthen his argument, that's for sure.
It just seems consistent now that these people on the far right are saying what they want, and this guy's still in bed with them. Anyway, Obama campaign spokesman Jen Psaki talked to reporters today and relayed the president's reaction to Murdoch. She said, quote, the president felt those comments were outrageous and demeaning to women. She also said that she finds it perplexing that Romney wouldn't demand his ad for Murdoch come down. A Romney campaign spokesperson said they haven't asked Murdoch to pull the ad. Already, the Democratic National Committee has a web video linking Romney and Murdoch. Let's listen to part of that ad.
This fall, I'm supporting Richard Murdoch for Senate.
Even when life begins in that horrible situation of rape, that it is something that God intended to happen.
This is a man who I want to see in Washington to make sure that we can not just talk about changing things, but actually have the votes to get things changed.
Even when life begins in that horrible situation of rape, that it is something that God intended to happen.
We got to get this guy elected in the U.S. Senate.
Well, he's a wingnut, obviously, based upon what he's been saying. He also beat a great man, Dick Lugar, out in Indiana. I'm sorry, is this the same guy? Yeah. Anyway, I can't believe how they chose Murdoch over Lugar. Anyway, the Republicans are getting the message loud and clear, and they hear that Murdoch, could hurt Romney. Former New York, Jersey Governor Chris Christie Todd Whitman, a Republican, said, quote, Murdoch's comments damage all Republicans, and especially Romney, as the fight for the women's vote intensifies. This could be a defining moment for Romney, and he should immediately distance himself, denounce both Murdoch and the comment. That's Christie Todd Whitman there, and she is a moderate. And Republicans in races are distancing themselves from Murdoch. Massachusetts Senator Scott Brown fighting for his life. Well, his spokesman issued a statement emphasizing that Brown is pro-choice and disagrees with Murdoch. New Hampshire Senator Kelly Ayotte canceled a planned campaign trip with Murdoch today, and Mike Pence, who's running for Indiana governor, urged Murdoch to apologize. Let me ask the Congresswoman Moore, these guys are all dancing away from this guy because he's embarrassed them. But it seems like, as you point out, they're platform, they all running away from the platform. They're running away from what Paul Ryan has said about personhood. How many times can they make deals with the hard right to get the support of the base on the Republican side and then dance away from it when the lights go on?
I just hope women of America are seeing that this is the dirty little secret inside of the Republican Party. They have no respect for women, no regard for women. They want to give rights to an embryo at the expense of women's health and women's lives. And they just want to get elected. You know, believe us for these 13 days, but I believe Mitt Romney and these senators, I believe them for what they have said the first time. They have said
like
that
14th
they would
Amendment.
repeal.
My Congresswoman, you're an African American. You know, the 14th Amendment came out of the Civil War. It was an attempt to make sure that the freed slaves had the rights of citizenship and all those rights of life, liberty, and property. Now to take the 14th Amendment and exploit it for this ideological battle of craziness. As you said, the fertilized egg has the rights over the woman who's supposed to have control of her body under the law and doesn't under this thing.
And it does. And, you know, and for Mitt Romney and these senators to say that, I mean, this is a woman's entire life. I mean, it's her physical health, her mental health, her economic status. I can tell you something, Chris, as a mother of three, it's hard enough to raise children when you plan a pregnancy, much less to have these men thrust pregnancy upon you. I can tell you that the Jerry Sandusky, that's the reason why we can't pass the Violence Against Women Act, for example, because these men do not take the violence against women seriously. They perhaps think that rape is just sort of a rite of passage, but rape is pandemic. It's a pandemic disease in this country.
Okay.
And despite what Todd Aiken says, you can become pregnant. And what is so cynical is that once you become pregnant, these Republicans don't want you to have food stamps. They don't want you to have WIC. They begrudge you a safety net. And so I am hoping that the women of America will believe these people for what they are telling you. These are not misstatements. They are stating what they actually believe.
Well, we benefit a lot from your experience and your knowledge. Thanks so much, U.S. Congresswoman Glenn Moore. And Howard, is this going to get tagged around the neck of Romney? This kind of stuff?
The Democrats are going to do everything they can in key places where independent, libertarian women,
Colorado,
New Hampshire, Northern Virginia, where women who are in business and might like Mitt Romney on the economy, they're going to hold back, and the Democrats will have a chance to get him for the same reason about libertarianism, which is they want to control their own bodies and their own lives.
And Romney's made his bed with this crazy crowd.